Cape Town, South Africa, May 11th, 2026. At around 1 a.m., many residents across Cape Town were suddenly awakened by a sound they would never forget. Not thunder, not ordinary wind, but the sound of something violent moving through the darkness. Windows began shaking, streetlights flickered, trees bent violently beneath wind gusts approaching 100 kilometers per hour. And somewhere across the city, families quietly stood near their windows, watching floodwater slowly rise outside their homes. By sunrise, parts of Cape Town no longer looked like the beautiful coastal city tourists once knew. Roads disappeared beneath water, roofs were ripped apart, vehicles were crushed beneath collapsing trees. Emergency sirens echoed across the Western Cape. And before the morning was over, more than 10,700 structures had been affected, with over 41,000 people caught in the middle of the disaster. But behind those terrifying numbers were ordinary people sitting silently in darkness, wondering if their homes would still be standing by morning. And for many older residents, the sound of violent wind outside that night brought back memories of storms they experienced decades ago. Storms from a world that now feels very far away. Tonight, we uncover how one of Africa's most famous cities suddenly descended into fear, chaos, and a climate disaster becoming harder and harder to ignore.
Oh my goodness.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Natural Destruction. On this channel, we do more than show shocking disaster footage. We tell the human stories hidden inside these moments, the fear people feel when the lights suddenly go out, the silence after a storm tears through a neighborhood, the quiet realization that life may never fully return to normal afterward. And tonight's story from Cape Town, South Africa, is one of those stories, because this was not simply a storm, it felt like a warning.
I'm so glad I'm getting this on fucking camera.
By the weekend of May 9th to 10th, 2026, the South African Weather Service had already issued an orange level 8 warning for disruptive rainfall across Cape Town and parts of the Western Cape. Meteorologists warned of destructive flooding, powerful winds, dangerous coastal conditions, and rainfall totals reaching 200 to 300 millimeters in some areas. But weather alerts on television never fully capture what people actually feel before disaster arrives, especially older residents. Many of them had already survived storms before, and they sensed that something felt wrong about this one. Late Sunday night, videos began spreading online showing shaking windows, flickering porch lights, bending trees, and floodwater already beginning to form before midnight. One resident later wrote, "I was woken up at 1 a.m. by the storm and couldn't sleep again until 5.
There's an accident on Hart Bay Main Road.
Yay!
And in Weinberg on Ryan.
I'm so glad I'm getting this on fucking camera.
Live wires across the roadway. Opposite Weinberg Park
Oh,
Road,
shit.
the left main road, Ward Road, there's many roadways. On the M3 direction.
Go, bruh!
Opposite Newlands
He's
Forest,
scared.
That Rhodes Avenue traffic slows down from Weinberg Hill. In Weinberg on Waterloo and Wolf Road.
That sentence sounds simple, until you imagine lying awake for 4 hours listening to the wind growing louder outside your home, waiting, hoping the roof stays intact, hoping the electricity stays on, hoping the tree outside does not fall tonight. Some older couples later said the storm reminded them of nights many years ago, sitting quietly together, listening to heavy rain while hoping the power would stay on until morning. Because for many people, disasters do not only destroy buildings, they awaken memories. Then, Monday morning arrived, May 11th, 2026, and suddenly, Cape Town descended into chaos. Wind gusts nearing 100 kilometers per hour slammed into neighborhoods across the city. Heavy rainfall overwhelmed roads and drainage systems within hours. Trees snapped apart and crashed into streets. Floodwater surged into homes. Power outages spread rapidly. People driving to work suddenly found roads underwater or blocked by fallen trees. At around 9:15 a.m., authorities officially closed Clarence Drive because of dangerous rockfalls and extreme wind conditions. Chapman's Peak Drive was also shut down. Tourist operations inside Table Mountain National Park were suspended. And what makes moments like this so frightening is how quickly ordinary life disappears. Just hours earlier, people were sleeping peacefully, planning work, making coffee, preparing children for school, living completely normal lives. Then suddenly, the entire city enters survival mode. There was once a time when storms like this would be remembered for decades. Now, many residents say the world barely has time to recover before the next disaster arrives. And as emergency calls continued pouring in across Cape Town that morning, many residents said the storm no longer sounded like weather. It sounded like fear. Fear of losing homes, fear of floodwater entering bedrooms, fear of receiving the phone call nobody wants to receive. And if you appreciate disaster documentaries that focus not only on destruction, but also on the emotional reality behind these events, please support natural destruction by subscribing to the channel. Because across the world, more communities are beginning to face disasters exactly like this, and these stories deserve to be remembered.
Oh, mercy.
Ek neem 'n video.
But while some neighborhoods only faced temporary outages, other communities were fighting to save their homes entirely. Floodwater surged into vulnerable settlements including Khayelitsha, Gugulethu, Delft, Luando, Nyanga, and Philippi. Families desperately tried protecting mattresses, clothing, blankets, and food from freezing water entering their homes. Some residents spent the entire night using buckets to remove water manually. Others simply sat helplessly in darkness, listening to rain hammer weak rooftops above them. By Monday evening, more than 10,700 structures had been affected and over 41,000 residents were impacted. But numbers never fully capture suffering. This storm leaves behind more than physical destruction. It leaves questions. Questions about climate, questions about infrastructure, questions about inequality, and questions about how many cities around the world are truly prepared for the future ahead. But perhaps the most important lesson is this. During disasters, human beings still continue helping one another. Neighbors share food. Volunteers distribute blankets. Rescue workers push themselves beyond exhaustion. Strangers open doors to families in need. And sometimes, those quiet acts of humanity become stronger than the storm itself. As floodwaters slowly recede across Cape Town, the emotional scars left behind may remain far longer. Because this was never only a story about rain, or wind, or flooding. It was a story about fear, about vulnerability, about survival, and about a world where extreme weather is becoming increasingly difficult to separate from everyday life. The same city that once feared running out of water now finds itself drowning beneath floodwater. And perhaps that contradiction alone tells us everything humanity needs to understand about the climate era we are now entering. Thank you for watching Natural Destruction. Stay safe, stay informed, and we will see you in the next disaster analysis.